Hello, Jason Hoffnagel.
Hey Kurt, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. So everybody, we have Merritt and Anne Marie here, and this meeting is in particular to talk about options to allow us to continue to be able to have the legacy uh, items in EnerGov operational after we do the transition. So Jason Huffnagel, I think that we were going to show us some options about how the workflows may change. I may not be using the right language, but I'll turn it over to you to show us what our options are.
Well, the first option was bringing the legacy data over into exactly where the permits are now
Hmm.
and leaving them in the same area where the permit is. So, for example, Merritt and Anne Marie, if there was an above ground storage tank permit being started in the legacy data, there would be a plan for that as well, and both would. And then if that was not completed beforehand, or even if it was completed, it's going to go over. They're both going to go into the above ground storage tank permit area. They would both be in the same area, so they wouldn't be separated. So you could still find both of them. They would just be in the same under the same name and naming culture for each other. That was the first option.
Okay, just a question on that option, Jason. This is Anne Marie. Would
Okay.
that be, so would they be allowed to, if let's say it was an active one that wasn't finalized or issued yet, would they be able to update the case workflow when that legacy information comes over, or how would that work on that option?
Yes, they would be able to update that workflow. It just, as you said earlier, I mean, I know how your planning ones, they pretty much after the middle part works, the review works, it ends from there, and then it goes back over to the permit, which was originally created. The thing about that is pretty much they're going to have to go from that area and just say, completed, and then whatever that one that's linked to it, they're going to have to start from there, and they can, in that review, because the review process is going to be left open, and they can hit skip and then give the reason why they're skipping it. So I'll just show let me see if I can try to figure out an example quick for that. All right.
Merritt, I think
Share
we're
my
getting a lot
screen.
of background noise from your microphone.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Sound like a garbage truck back there.
Really? Okay.
Sorry.
Everyone can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, for example, the fire. This would be the plan that would be coming over from legacy data. I'm just gonna skip this real quick because the most important part is the planning part of it. Okay. So if this would come over in the legacy data, it would go right from here in your middle of these reviews. Once these reviews are completed, so usually take a couple seconds for those to actually do it by themselves. I was gonna skip ahead. All right. So right from this point of view, that's all your planning one would do from legacy. And I know you'll have the other linked permit. So they would just go from there and they would go to the linked records and it would have a linked permit of the original one that was opened. And they would go from there and go into the workflow and just skip all the way down to issue permit. And that's what they would do. That would be the easiest. I mean, without actually throwing everything in and changing everything. That's what I think is the easiest option to go right I mean, it's not the cleanest, but it'll get it done.
Right. So, and it looks, I mean, it looks functional, but we'll have Merit. I just had some more questions on that. So will they, will the permit that was created in Legacy, that's the one that's going to be brought over and linked, or will they have to recreate a new permit in the new system and link it?
Both will be brought over. So the original permit that was created, and then the planning one would be created as well, and they would both be linked together. So they wouldn't have to go and create a new permit. They wouldn't have to. They would still be linked together.
All right. How does that look for you?
So my first question is, what you're showing me now, Jason, what's the difference of the way information is being imported from the fire permits versus the building permits?
So building permits, what's coming over for them, they're not doing it. I mean, it wasn't decided to do it like that. They have this other permit case called Plan Check. It's a separate permit case, and it's just anything that legacy data is going into there. It's just coming over, and they're finishing it up in their own workflow, and then creating the sub permit from here. But since it's already being created, they're just going to make sure it's linked. And if it's already linked, then they can just go ahead and then just say this is finally approved, and they're just going to go back to the linked document, and which is going to be in the PLCK, and that's what they're going to look up, and then they're going to go from there. It's just two separate areas. For fire, we were combining it all into one. So the downside to what I just said is, so for fire stuff, like let's say a fire, as I was saying, a fire above ground storage tank permit, the plan and the permit itself, you would have to try to locate both of those in there. They'd both be in the same area, and there'd be the naming of it will be the exact same. It's just one would be the plan, one would be the permit. That's the only difference for the stuff that's legacy.
Okay.
The second option I have is, has to do with as long as, and this is a big caveat, is if these fire plan checks that you wanted and you were talking about, if we create them, as long as we don't have to do run reports on them, then I think we could get it done. But that's the problem. We would have to redo reports of those. That's the big difference on doing it. That's why the caveat I'm trying to say let's try not to do it because of that. We'd have to redo all the reports and test all that.
And that would allow the workflows, for lack of a better term, to remain the same for all cases, right? But there's a big cost for that. A big cost in terms of work, right?
Yes, so I would have to create workflows for those new plan checks, but I think the bigger amount of money would be coming from the reports, redoing all that, and making sure it all gets linked to all those reports that fire needs, if there were need to run reports off that data.
I'm sorry, and Merit, I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to make sure I can follow along. The first option involves a workaround, but no adjustment to reports. It requires the city to do some extra steps to just in their process for these legacy items that are moved over. The second one requires change to the reports so that they will operate the same as new items created in the new system. Am I summarizing that correctly?
Yes.
All right.
But the second option is also dependent on if reports are needed on the legacy data as well.
All right.
On those plan checks.
Sorry to interrupt. I'll be quiet.
No. I mean, that's the question for Merit. Is the legacy data, is that needed for reports?
You mean a report if I'm running like how many active plan cases we have or permits? Or
yeah, I guess.
That
yes.
Permit type?
Yes.
I mean,
so
I would not. I mean, yes, I would need it. So if I need to know, say, calendar year, how many ASTs were issued for 2020. If we don't do this and I go by doing the extra steps, those reports, it won't pull those issued permits?
I'm saying if we use the stat, if we create the extra plan check version, like building has, like it has it like spelled out, like, you know, plan check like that, you would need to run reports off that data, since you would need to know how many outstanding plan reviews are needed, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's where the problem lies. Is it would take a lot of report writing again,
So
going
Jason,
through the reports.
just so we can get clarification on that, it appears that all of her information will come over. Let me just make sure I understand this correctly. First off, everything's going to come over, and she'll be able to update as required. She'll be able to run reports. The only difference is that when it comes to linking the permits, it may take a little time because they're all going to be named the same, and she'll have to look for those a little bit, I don't want to say harder, but a little bit more than she would normally. Do I understand that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay. So then, but she could still run reports on anything that comes up. Okay, so then that's the only negative on the workaround, basically, is that to link the permits, she's going to have to look at them a little closer because they're all going to be named the same.
Correct. Yeah, that's the only negative to that, of everything being jammed into and having the plan check from the legacy data and the permits from the legacy data in the same permit case, is having to, you know, look a little harder at exactly what was completed, you know, which one was which. That's the only difference.
You're saying that I'm linking the information, like now that I create a permit and it auto generates the plan case number. So then the workflow lives separate from the permit. So if you do the workaround, I have to somehow link. I have a plan case and I have to figure out which permits to link now to that plan review?
No, they should be still linked. You just have to make sure which one was the plan review and which one was the permit, since they'd both be named when they came over. For example, like if it came over, it was if it came over, let me see, 5 above ground storage tank permits.
Okay.
When it came over, it would come over, and if it was like the work class was install, both would come over as installations, and one would be the plan and one would be the permit, and there would be 2 different numbers for each one of them. And you just have to go, all right, which one's the plan case of it, and, you know, and which one was the permit. That's the only difference right there. They would both be still linked together.
Okay.
And that's the only downside to it. And so when the permit happened, the permit would you would have to, after you do the plan case, you have to do the plan check. You'd have to go into the linked records, since they would still be linked together. They would still be linked together. You would just go into the linked records, and it would be right here, be the permit linked to it, and you'd click it open, and you would just make sure to skip these 2 steps, or these 2 steps, to get to issue permit, since if it was the permit, since this is done in the plan case. That would all be done in the plan case. That would already been taken care of.
Well, that seems even easier now that we know they're linked.
Yeah, that was my concern. I thought they were not going to be linked. So,
yeah.
No,
okay, I can work with that.
Everything that's linked in desktop, when it comes over, should be linked, and it's one of those things where we'll be checking and they double check and make sure everything's coming over linked when this conversion happens.
So when the conversion happens, will it bring over the number that exists in desktop, or will it create a whole new numbering system?
I think it should bring over the same number that's created.
Okay, so maybe we could run a report right before, that way you can, if you needed to break it down further, you'd know what was what, you know what I mean, in desktop.
Yeah. So there's any way to test this? We can't test this obviously before the conversion, then we have to wait.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So what if, just, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. What if when we do the conversion, it doesn't work the way you're showing us? What are we?
Yeah, that's my concern. Mhm.
What would not be working? I mean, what are you afraid of most not working? How about that?
The permits linking
Oh, the
Or,
permit's
or,
linking?
or coming across because
or coming
there's
across. Mhm.
yeah.
It's definitely going to come across. It's not going to be lost data. So if you're worried about it linking, in here there's a thing called link permit cases, and you would just hit link. And so let me see if I can do this. I gotta save some things in here first.
It seems so easy. I'm wondering why, and I wasn't involved in those conversations, why we chose to go the other direction.
I wasn't involved in those discussions either, unfortunately. So I don't know. I honestly don't know.
And like I see this, and okay, I know we're talking about merit right now, and you're doing something, but are we able to report on the plan check cases we're bringing over? Are those built into the reports we have or not?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right.
So right here, you would just search for your permit if you wanted to search for that, and it would just, so you could see any ones that were active, or you could create a brand new one. But since they both get created at the same permit, in the legacy, when a permit happens, it automatically creates the plan. You would just look for that, and you just type in the number, and you would just go from there, and you would link it. So you just hit this, you right click it, and just hit link. They did not link. That, if that's what you're afraid of, that's an easy fix to a certain extent. That's the easiest workaround.
Okay, so that's like the worst case scenario if it doesn't link, but we're hoping, and we're going to put all our cards that it links, and we don't have to worry about that.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
and we'll know pretty much after the first pass if the information did not come over smoothly. That's something that we'll have to address and clean up and fix. It's not like it's something we're going to go, well, we ran the conversion once, this is what you guys get. That's not what's going to happen. The first conversion pass, we'll see what comes over neatly and how it comes over. And if it does not come over at all, that's something we can address right then and there, because it's something that needs to come over from that conversion part. So that I'm not worried about it not coming over, because we can have a place, we can bring that information over. And then my other sort of fix, and I just kind of thought about it, is if you wanted to make the plan checks their own work class, we could do that as well if we wanted to bring that over, and instead of making a whole new permit case for it. If that makes any sense, Merritt, for anything that was legacy. We could do that as well.
For the work class?
Yeah, so we could, let me, like, for every one of these permits, let me hit brand new. So for every one of these above ground, let's just do water-based fire protection systems, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We could call it plan check. It wouldn't tell you exactly what your plan checking is, but it would be a water-based fire protection system plan check. It wouldn't tell you if it was a standpipe, wouldn't tell you if it was underground FP system. That way we could also bring it over as well as a work class. And this is doing very minimal to affect the reports as well. This would still involve all your report writing, and it wouldn't change that.
Okay, so this is just adding that. It's not. This is another option.
It's another option, and it's one of those.
Okay.
It's one of the things I thought of. That let's say you wanted all your plan cases to go somewhere and just be left alone, and like since if it was really getting hard for you to tell the difference between the two, of it both being a standpipe for a plan and a standpipe for a permit, and you couldn't exactly tell which one was which, that we make all the plan cases that come over the permit type, but the work classes are all plan checks. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's just, I know in our permits, so if I do fire sprinkler system, for example, the permit it's like an FSSP, but then the plan case, if it's commercial, then it's a CFSP. So it doesn't have that same like prefix. So I don't know if that makes a difference of when I'm searching for a permit or a plan case.
Yeah, I don't know.
But Merritt, on a thought on that too, if they both come over, is that our current plan check numbers are typically a lower range than our permit numbers, right? We're like in the 7,000s for permits, and like I think plan check we're in the 5s.
We're in the 5s.
So that would be helpful if you did it the first way he showed us in differentiating between what's a plan case and what's a permit.
That's true.
So Jason, they're not going to lose their numbering because that there is a huge one. Because like I said, our plan check numbers right now are in the 5,000 range, and our permits are in the 7,000 range, and that could help her easily identify between the two if we did it with your first solution.
Correct, and it's one of those things where I am pretty sure. Like, I mean, I'm saying like 95% sure, maybe 98% sure that the numbers should come over, because it makes no sense if you guys were to come over and transfer over and everything that was coming from legacy data, all the numbering would change for the new permit. Like that wouldn't make any sense to me for our system to do that. You know what I mean, Emery?
Yeah.
And Matt?
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's as I said, when this conversion happens, we can exactly what's going on, and if we need to make a drastic change there, I guess we kind of are forced to a certain extent. But I think it can work the way we have it set up.
Okay, I mean, the way you've explained it, Jason, it's I'm comfortable going that route. It doesn't seem like it's a lot of steps. Like you showed me, if I can go in there and everything is linked in Enterprise, then I'm okay with that. It's just like you said, I guess once you do the conversion, we'll see at that point how everything imports into Enterprise.
Jason,
all right.
I have two follow-up questions. Thank you. First, thank you for explaining this so clearly. The first question is, are we facing the same issue with Public Works?
No.
Why not?
No, we're not.
And
because they have to have a plan, and that's why the way they set theirs up for so oversized load, parking permit, all the other ones from Sergio, they don't have any plans, so those are not needed to talk about. The two things that are needed to talk about, they already have a thing called grading improvement plan,
right?
And it ends right then and there, where they have, because from the grading improvement plan, they have an option to start 3 separate permits, depending on what kind of plan it is. I mean, the plan is just called it's called a GRIM case, grading improvement plan. And they can either start an encroachment permit, a floodplain development permit, or a grading permit. Those are the 3 options you have, or they can start all 3 from that plan. And that's the reason why they needed it like that. And they also have just one called floodplain development plan. And it's because of the necessary fees that get triggered off of them. That's the reason why.
Great. So if we're able to address this, I'm sorry, you weren't finished.
No, I was gonna say that the last one is a thing called final map plan, and all that is just a review. So that's all that is just a map review, and then that's it. Nothing else happens.
Very good. So if we are able to address this problem for fire, we will have essentially tackled this problem, right?
Correct.
Great. Second question is, what impact does I think I heard a third option. What impact does option 1 and option 2 have on the project in terms of time or money?
Option one has no, I mean, when I say no time impacted, I mean, the impact will be testing out the conversion, making sure it works, double checking on it working.
So it's nominal. It's
Option
mostly
one.
on the city side to test and confirm, right?
Well, yes, but both Tyler and Ventura will be testing that.
All right. Of
Option
course, you have to
two,
test your piece. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, and then option two, adding the plan cases in. That is, like I said, I was predicting close to 6 hours worth of work for the workflows to create these plan check cases and making sure everything is there for that to make it work and make it fire correctly. And then the reports, I think it depending on if it, and as we talked about how many reports that plan check for fire plan check would need to touch, all those reports that it would need would have to be worked on. And I think when I was looking at the fire reports the other day, I think fire touches close to 35, 32 reports.
Mm-hmm.
So out of those reports, we would need to maybe dim it back, maybe 5 to maybe 30 reports would need to include fire plan checks and then test that out as well.
That
So you
means
have to
we have to
redo
go
that
back
and then
to.
redo the conversion piece.
I see. So it's not just update the reports, redo the conversion piece, retest, revalidate the reports, not revalidate, but retest the reports and bring them to go live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the first option in terms of our timeline, if we want to stay on track, the first option may allow us to stay on track if we're able to accommodate the testing. The second option is probably going to require a change of some sort, right?
Correct. And then the third option, which I talked about, was adding a work class of just and putting all fire plan checks to a certain extent. So for each different permit type into that category. So it would make it a little difficult as well, but maybe make it simpler at the same time. So it would put all CFC permit plan checks into one permit, into one work class. So every one of these, so there's 6 work classes now, there would be 7. And so it wouldn't require any report time, but it probably would require some more conversion time.
And Merit,
And
do you
Jason, I have a
understand?
question on that really quick for the CFC permit.
Mm-hmm.
So currently I use the CFC plan type
Okay.
to bring in plans for our defensible space, and there's no permit created. I go straight to the plan case. Is that going to cause any issues when you're importing into the permit module for us?
What was that permit called, you said? The permit, so the work class?
It's just CFC other. That one you
Okay.
have the C, but it's a plan. It's not in, right now, I don't create a permit. I go straight to the plan case in desktop, and I add my description in there, and we do a workflow, a plan review, and there's no fees involved. It's just a plan review.
Okay. Well, I believe for this CFC other, the fees are all manual. Might be, yeah, they're all manual
Yes.
fees. So nothing would automatically trigger on this anyway. As well as for that plan, all it would do is it would just end right here at the plan review.
Okay.
That's all you would do for that. But is there a permit that actually gets issued here for the CFC other or no?
Some yes, some no. So we have, if it's depending on the type of the scope of work, there could be a permit, but I create plan cases for our FHRP, for our fire hazard severity zones. So for those types, I create only a plan case because they're submitting plans and we do not issue a permit.
Okay, and so for that, majority of that stuff that would come over, to a certain extent, it would just come out with, you'd go with even legacy data, it would just have the review, and these steps wouldn't be filled out, and I would assume the status of this would be either, complete, or it would be, final, correct? Is that what's coming over in the, so that's all it would be in there. It'd just become complete or final date, and this date would be populated over here, and there wouldn't be an issue since it's not a permit, like you said. There's no issue date.
Got it.
All right, I have a question for Anne-Marie and Merritt. Are both of you clear on the 3 options in terms of the understanding how they work and the viability of them? think you might be muted.
For me, I feel like I wish Jason and I would discuss these for our conversion. I think this would have been the easier solution.
You wish.
But
For option one?
yeah, option one.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't see any issues with that, Merritt, especially because of our numbering range currently in desktop on our plan cases versus our permits. I think it's going to be easy for you to differentiate between the two. I think this is a good work.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm comfortable with that. We just have to wait and see for the conversion.
Yes. All right. Well, what I would like to do at this point is stop this meeting. No decisions at this point. I want to just take these facts, mull them over a little bit. I need to discuss this with Louis as well, and I'd like to, and Anne-Marie and Merritt. And then Jason Kim and Jason Huffnagel, can we get back with you maybe tomorrow for maybe further discussions and maybe even be able to decide a path forward?
Yes.
That's fine.
Great. Anne-Marie and Merritt, do you have any other questions for either Jason before we finish, or vice versa?
No, I'm good. I think
I don't. Thank you for explaining that, Jason.
No problem.
Yes.
How was testing, by the way, today?
Testing went. I think it went pretty good. We didn't get as many done. We had to back up a few reports from Anne-Marie's because. Can you explain that, Anne-Marie? What was the one detail we had to back up on?
just the plan check ones that were